So I didn't think I would have to go back to this subject about talking about more live service games shutting down, but we're here. So I'm pretty sure some of you folks remember, but a couple months ago, if not last year, I made a video talking about how games like X Defiant was going to be shutting down in 2025, and games like Conquered have also shut down within 2 weeks of the game launching. And now we got yet another live service game that is basically dead now, and it's going to receive its final update. So, for those of you who weren't aware, let me catch you up to speed real quick. So, basically, Warner Brothers has basically announced the game MultiVersus, which, for those of you who don't know what the game is, it's essentially a fighting game similar to Smash Bros. Style, which we all know what Smash Brothers is. It's basically Warner Brothers' version of that, but the game is called MultiVersus. Well, unfortunately for Warner Brothers, it looks like the game is already going to be shutting down this year. So I decided to check the PlayStation Store and to see if the game was actually still available. And surprisingly, as my phone goes off, well, surprisingly, I was able to check the game and I was able to see this little notification on the front of the game on the PlayStation Store. So this is a screenshot of the PlayStation Store when I looked up Multiverses, and if you can tell from the little description here, this is what it says. Season 5 will serve as the final update for Multiverses. As of January 31st, 2025, real money microtransactions are no longer available. Season 5 will run from February 4th, 2025 through May 30th of 2025. All online features will be available until May 30th, 2025. So basically, in a nutshell, this game is basically going to be shut down and no longer available to play once May 30th comes along, as my phone goes off once again. So Multiverses will no longer be available to play once May 30th comes along. So if you're someone that likes fighting games and you're interested in Multiverses, and if you already played the game but you haven't caught wind of this news yet and you just are hearing this right now, I strongly advise you get those last minute games in before the game just shuts down for good. I don't know what's going on within these developers' heads and all, but it just seems like this modern gaming trend is just continuing to get even worse as time goes on. Like I've mentioned before, live service games like X Defiant, like it basically released and then it's basically dead after several months. Like you can't even look up the game anymore in the digital stores. Games like Conquered even lasted 2 weeks and then it shut down and then Sony was forced to issue everybody refunds. And now we got Multiverses, which is basically shutting down as well. So, all those microtransactions you paid for in the game and all those fun little skins you got, yeah, they're not going to be available anymore once the game shuts down and everything. The one thing that really set off a red flag for me when I originally played this game last year was the fact that the developers basically shut the game down, like they turned off the beta completely and they were going to try to bring it back. And when they did bring it back, they said, "Oh, don't worry, we're going to improve the game and get all of these features and we're going to keep releasing," like the usual PR jabaz we all have heard several times before. But when the game fully came back, it was worse than the goddamn beta, and the beta of Multiverses was better than the second release of Multiverses. And when the game originally shut down the first time when it was still in beta, that was a red flag for some people, and they realized, oh shoot, this game is probably not going to do too well. So I'm going to jump ship and go to their competitors' games like Fortnite that are doing it better. It just seems like there's this continuous trend where all these other game companies are trying to release only live service games and they're trying to be like the next Fortnite just because they need to make money and they want to cash in on their players and they want to try to make every game like a smash hit. Last time I checked, have you seen disasters like Conquered? That was a live service flop. Last time I checked, live service games are still not well received. It just seems like these companies and these developers are trying to force people like me and people like you watching this video or listening to it. They're trying to make people like us play their live service game, like if it's like a part-time job or a full-time job for these companies. But last time I checked, no, that's not how this works here. It's not our job to play a live service game to keep these corporate companies happy. But in reality, it's the exact opposite. That's not the case at all. It's not our job to play a live service game to keep these companies happy. No, it's the developer's job at these companies to make a good video game and actually make people happy. And if they make a game that not a lot of people are happy with, then we're just going to stop playing it. It's that simple. If consumers are not happy with the product, then we're just going to stop playing it. It's that simple. It just seems like 90% of these companies forget what making a fun video game is about. Which I get it, you need to profit off of video games to make money. I get that. But they always prioritize making money over everything else. When I think of something like that, I think of companies like Activision and EA, where they just stuff the game in with microtransactions and they just forget the gameplay and they just put monetization above everything else. But when I think of fun games, I think of companies like Lariat Studios, because Lariat Studios prioritizes fun and gameplay and entertainment over everything else. And they have basically nailed Baldur's Gate 3 out of the park, and the game was so well received, it won Game of the Year back in 2023. And yes, I had sky high expectations for Baldur's Gate 3, and it has succeeded and passed all those marks I've had for that game. And I've beaten Baldur's Gate 3 not once, not twice, but 3 times now. And as a matter of fact, I'm actually on my 4th playthrough of the game right now. You know why? Because the game's actually fun and it's not a live service like Fortnite or Call of Duty. Baldur's Gate 3 is its own game. It's not shutting down like games like MultiVersus. But yet, games like MultiVersus is being shut down and it's basically going to be erased from gaming history alongside Conquered. Just some unfortunate news for MultiVersus, and it sucks that this is happening, but it is what it is. And I just wish game companies would think twice before actually releasing their games. It seems like the creativity department for most of these companies is fading away, and they're just focusing more on this live service route where they want to try to make players play their live service games as a full-time job, but when in reality, it should be the developer's job to release a fun video game. And if you're going to make a live service game, you actually have to put effort into that game, or else nobody's going to play it and it will end up as a flop and a disaster, just like games like Conquered. So, with this being said, thank you everyone for watching and for listening. And until next time, I'm talking about how live service games are still not being well received. And I'll see you all later.